claims that Russia has attacked Europe. Yes, Russia has allegedly attacked Romania. The claim is that there was a drone that hit an apartment complex and injured many people. The claim is that this was a civilian apartment, and the drone that was used with the wreckage of it has now been found, and it's the Russian Giran 2, which is modeled after the Iranian Shahid drone. And so we're going to speak to our Russian expert, Jim Kavanagh. He's been covering geopolitics for a very long time and has been covering the Russia-Ukraine issue as well. And we're going to speak to him about that and on many of the breaking news that happened. For example, Zelensky wrote a letter to Trump asking for more Patriot missiles. So we're going to speak about all of those things with our guest. Jim, thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Suleiman.
It's an honor and a privilege. So, Jim, immediately we've got some breaking news, and apologies that we're asking you when it just came out like 10 minutes ago. So, and for the audience, this has not been verified in the sense of we've got no statement from Russia. No one's looked at the direction of where the drones come. No one's been able to ascertain the veracity of these claims. But currently, the claims are that this was a Russian drone that was used to strike Romania, expanding the war into NATO. What's your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I did get surprised by this. I was looking at the news until about a half hour before I came on, so this happened in between. Anyway, hearing this story, I thought we heard it before. It happened in Poland with a drone that somehow got into Poland, and it was kind of everybody acknowledged at the end of the day that it wasn't really Russia who did it, or if they did it, they made a mistake, or and I off the bat, I got to say, so why is Russia sending a single drone against an apartment building in Romania? I mean, either it was some drone that kept going off course, going through Ukraine and went into Romania and dropped, ran out of fuel and fell down, or it is, a false flag by the Ukrainians who have, I'm sure they have a drone. They've captured some of these drones from Russia. This is not something that we can have any assurance about right now. And, what I would say pretty strongly is I do not think that Russia deliberately sent a single drone to deliberately attack an apartment building in Romania. I see no reason for that to happen. I do see, and I know that Ukraine and Zelensky and even the Europeans are desperate to keep this war going and desperate to get the Americans back involved in it full on. So that's, they've been throwing provocations at Russia using drones going through the Baltic countries. And, Russia has said at some point we're going to respond to that, and they're looking for Russia. They're trying to provoke Russia into a response against the NATO country so they can pull out Article 5, etc. So that's the kind of situation we've been in for a while. Again, strongest opinion is I don't think Russia deliberately sent a single drone against an apartment building in Romania. Other things are speculative about whether it's a false flag or whether it was a mistake or whatever.
In terms of the mistake, and this is what I was speaking to Ryan about, and I asked him, based on where Romania is located, could that be a possibility that it could have been something accidental?
Well, it's possible. I mean, Romania, it has to go through Moldova to get to Romania. Is that correct? It's possible, but we'd have to see something more about this. Anybody else track this? Did they have the direction it came from? They have any information of tracking information? Everybody has satellites. The Russians have satellites. The Chinese have satellites. Americans have satellites. I'll bet the Russians will be able to give their satellite data about where this drone was coming from. We'll just have to see. Again, someone's going to have to give me a lot of evidence to think, oh, Russia deliberately sent a single drone to attack an apartment building in Romania. Russia's been very strict, given what we've seen over the past 3 years around the world in military actions. Russia has been very strict about trying to avoid civilian casualties. There's been very few civilian casualties pro rata in that war, in the war in Ukraine, compared to, let's say, Gaza. So, it just, Russia has no reason to attack an apartment building in Romania. If it's a military target nearby, maybe, but I doubt it.
So, and you're quite right. We don't have any more information in terms of the direction of where the drone came, from where it came, how it hit. And I think these are going to be important things to ascertain in order to find out whether this was a false flag or not. The other question I guess I have for you is, there have been conversations, even from Russians. I know the Ukrainians have been claiming this for 4 years. But from the Russians, there has been these claims that there is this thought, this perspective that there is a possibility they could expand this war into Europe. And then you have this attack on Romania. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I know. And Scott Ritter, in fact, has said quite strikingly that a decision has been made in Russia to attack some target in Europe, to demonstrate that, they are aware that the Europeans are playing games with Ukrainian drones and Ukrainian targeting, and I can't. You should talk to Scott about that. But I think, of course, we all know that there is a lot of pressure on Putin from more hardliners in Russia to act in some way to demonstrate to the Europeans, especially, that you can't get with anything. So, but again, even given that, I don't think this is the target they would have struck. I mean, if they're going to strike a target in Europe, it's going to be some target of either they can demonstrate a location which was used for drone attacks or was used for drone targeting, a command and control center which is used for targeting. I think if they're going to attack a target in Europe, it's going to be something they can be pretty sure, they can give pretty clear and convincing evidence it's been directly involved in the war against them. And Romania ain't it. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. And Jim, your internet's gone a bit pixelated again. It was fine during the first segment, and now it's just a bit pixelated again.
Sorry.
Don't know if you can sort that out or possible, because the audience can't see it. It's like your internet sped up a bit or something.
I don't know what to say. I'm looking fine. I see myself on your screen. Well.
Yeah, the audience are also saying your internet is going a bit fast, so it's a bit jittery. It was fine first. It's just gone off a little bit now.
I'm looking at. I don't quite know what to do. I could try logging off and back on it. And,
yeah, let's try that again, and hopefully it works this time again.
That's
Apologies.
terrible. Sorry. Let me try this.
Yeah, okay, so he's just resetting. Let me just give you some more breaking news. Romanian media confirm a drone struck a residential building in Galati near the Ukrainian border. The fires out, 2 people were lightly injured and about 70 residents were evacuated. They're claiming it's a Russian Giran 2, which is modeled after the Iranian Shahid 135 drone. Jim, thank you so much for resetting, and you're fine now. And so the other question we have for you is, as soon as you went backwards, but the other question is that we had for you is, so you were talking about the expansion in Europe. Now, the other element of this is Zelensky. Zelensky's asking the United States of America for more Patriot missiles, and Congress. He wrote a very expansive letter asking for them. We know the US is supplying these weapons to Israel and some of the Gulf states, but mainly Israel, and they don't have enough Patriot missiles to go around. What's your thoughts on that aspect of it being linked to what's happened?
Well, I don't think it. I mean, it's linked to that if there's a false flag from Zelensky, because Zelensky is desperate about this. And everybody is coming to grips and running into the fact that the United States has one main squeeze, and that's Israel. And everybody else is a side piece, and things aren't, all the missiles, everything that Israel needs is going to go there, and that's Ukraine, that's the Gulf states. They've realized the Americans are going to protect Israel above all. And the Americans were pulling out of. Trump was losing interest in Ukraine and was stopping deliveries anyway. And Zelensky is desperate now. I mean, the air defense system in Kiev, I think, is extremely weak, and the Russians are taking advantage of it. And they're going to continue. I think this is now a campaign that's just really started with massive drone and missile attacks. Most of the missiles the Ukrainians could never stop. And so the only way that would benefit, if this is a false flag by Ukraine, then that's the reason for it. That's one of the reasons for it. But I think the general situation that we see with Zelensky's letter to Trump is really kind of desperation. They know, and Ukrainian generals say it. They say there was an article, I forget where it was, but they portrayed, I think it was in Telegraph or something, they portrayed it as, oh, Ukraine's about to turn the war around. But it was really a Ukrainian general saying, we have 60 days, I think it was 60 days before something changes. And it's not like we have 60 days, we're going to turn the war around. Within 60, if we don't do it in 60 days, we're going to be in real trouble. And that's what I think I think the Ukrainian generals know this, that if Russia continues its advance in the Donbas region against Slavyansk and Kramatorsk and against Zaporozhye, that by the end of the summer, Ukraine's going to be in real trouble, and undeniably, they won't be able to hide it anymore. So if that's why this drone going to you, again, that's not a reason for Russia to send a drone into Romania. It's a reason for Ukraine to do so.
Yeah, so you're basically saying it could be a motive, but then separate to that, in terms of it could be a motive if it's a false flag, but the over-expansive reasons are that they are running out, right? And again, I had Larry Johnson on. He went through the maths, and he was saying basically there's not enough defense interceptor missiles. If you look at the sheer volume of missiles that have been used by Russia today, they're just the Ukrainians are not able to intercept them, and the Russians have been producing a lot more. They have a significant arsenal of missiles. So how much of a problematic situation is this for Ukraine?
Huge. It's a huge problem. I mean, and it's going to get worse. As you say, and as everybody says, and as they say, and as Zelensky is saying, we don't, and the Patriots themselves, here's Garland calling me, the Patriots themselves, can't take down a lot of the Russian missiles. They're doing they can do against drones, but they're very expensive weapons to take down drones. And the Ukrainian situation with air defense and the Patriots is very problematic, very difficult. They know it. It's a desperation situation, and it's going to become, again, an undeniable crisis, I think, in the coming months. So I don't know, because as you say, Russia has a military-industrial complex. You saw it like in the beginning of the second year of the war when Putin set up this military-industrial commission headed by Medvedev. Right then you said, "Oh, this is going to be a problem. This is the real thing." That's how wars are won. The Americans created the arsenal of democracy, in World War II. They had a huge industrial complex and they put it to the task. The Soviets had a huge industrial complex and they put it to the task. And the Russians have, using the legacy of Soviet socialism, organized their society to produce weapons, and weapons that can be produced relatively cheaply and at scale, and are useful weapons and are robust weapons and don't break down. They're not boutique weapons that require 100 hours of maintenance for every hour they're used, and they can take a hit and keep on ticking. So they have, that's happened now. It's industrial warfare of a kind we haven't seen in a long time, because the Americans could get away with their airstrikes for 30 years, which were enormous, but the Americans can't. And certainly Ukraine, let's realize, had the biggest army in Europe. And they said it in 2022. We have the biggest army in Europe. We have the best equipped army. And they did. And they had the best equipped army for 2 years, 3 years thereafter, as the Americans and Europeans disarmed themselves by sending all their weapons to Europe, especially to Ukraine. So, but now that game is over. And Ukrainians cannot outproduce Russian arms. And the Europeans can't outproduce Russian arms, and the Americans can't outproduce Russian arms. The rate of loss is greater than the rate of reproduction, and that's just a fact. Russia is reproducing at a rate that's good enough to keep going.
And the other question I have for you is, what built up to this was, just before I do, guys, make sure you like this video, like it, make sure you share it. We can get as many people in here as possible. But just the other question I had for you was this. What led up to this, unfortunately, was the Ukrainians attacked Luhan and they basically killed 21 students. And in response to that, Russia had a major attack on Kiev. The major attack resulted in... actually, let's deal with one element at a time. What was your thoughts about the Ukrainian attack? What happened there? What was the motive? Why would they carry out such an attack?
Again, is there anybody who's presenting... well, I guess that it was a mistake. They were looking at a military target. The only thing I've heard about that is speculation that it was American AI that produced the wrong target for them. And that may be the case. I don't know. But was there some military target nearby? Again, if it was a mistake based on American AI or faulty Ukrainian targeting data, but you know the targeting is done by the Americans and the British and the French. So that's a bad thing, okay? If it was deliberate, again, I think Ukraine is trying to provoke Russia into a big response that's going to get the Americans back in it. They can say, look, they're attacking Europeans, they're going to win and it's a real question. I've said from early on, my writings about this war, I said, I think there's at least a 50-50 chance that you're going to end up with a nuclear war here because neither side is going to surrender, accept surrender. And that's what's going to be the result of this. It'll be one side capitulating to the other. That's what's going to happen. There's no real compromise here that satisfies everybody, okay? And I've been surprised to see the Americans pulling out, and so they're going to have to decide at some point, however, when it comes down to it, are we really going to take the L? Donald Trump, whoever's the president, is going to have to decide, are we going to allow Russia to be the clear, undeniable winner and get what they wanted out of this conflict with Ukraine? We started this damn thing in 2014 in order to take down Russia. That was the point of it. The point of it was to undermine Russia. They were going to have sanctions from hell. The ruble is rubble. We're going to get the oligarchs to take out Putin, and then it's going to be the military is going to take out Putin. None of that's happened. Putin is as popular as he ever was, or maybe he's lost 5%. And the Russians are really more intent on fighting back and on ending this war on their own terms. Okay, and they've given up on, I think, really diplomacy with the United States because there is everybody see there's no diplomacy with the United States. So, I think the Iranians, Ukrainians are always trying to provoke. And at this point, Russia's saying, okay, you have provoked us and we are going to react. Whereas a year ago, 2 years ago, Putin was in a state of mind where he'd say, can't react too harshly, we'll lose the support of China, we'll lose the support of India. I think China has given Putin a green light. That last meeting he had with Xi, Putin came back, and that's when he said, we are going much more strongly than we were, because I think Xi said to him, we understand you're not going to get anything from the Americans. The diplomacy game is not for real. It's a clown show. It's a theater. Win the war. So I think that the Ukrainians are playing a very dangerous game because they're going to provoke a response. Ultimately, they may attack Europe, and they attack Kiev now. And if they full on attack Kiev, it's going to be a disaster. I mean, so it is a very dangerous game, and I'm not entirely sure that the United States of America, is going to actually sit back and say, we're going to let Russia win the war. Well, it looks like it.
Okay. And Jim, your video's gone out again.
Oh, God. I'm sorry.
All good. It's just that it's brilliant what you're saying. I really want to hear it, you see. Let me give some breaking news while you're resetting that. The breaking news is... Good. Yeah, thank you so much. Very kind of you. But I think you will need to reset it because it's gone off again. And okay, I'll speak to the audience while you're resetting. So there's some more breaking news, which is the Russian Defense Ministry confirms that the drone came from Russia. Yes, the Russian Defense Ministry is claiming that the drone came from Russia. Obviously, we haven't heard anything from the Russian perspective. We need to hear what they have to say, because you have to remember, during the fog of war, a lot of this initial information does come from these OSINT accounts. Many of these OSINT accounts are very pro-NATO accounts, and they propagandize the situation. But I'm giving you the information as and when we receive it, and then letting you know what the source is. So, Jim, the bit I was explaining to them was that the Romanian defense, I hope I said Romanian before, but it was the Romanian Defense Ministry confirm or claim that the drone did indeed come from Russia.
Okay. So we'll have to see what the Russians say about
it. Exactly.
They have a voice in this. They're going to say something about
it. We are interested to see what they've got to say about this. Now, coming on to it, then we had the Russian response. And the Russian response was quite extravagant, in the sense of it was quite big. They used 600 drones, 90 missiles. They used the Oreshniks, and they hit Ukraine quite hard. What do you think about the level of the Russian response? Do you think it was appropriate? Do you think they did right? What about the targets that they went after?
Are you talking about the Russian response to the school attack?
Yeah.
This is not a response today, or is this?
No, the Russian response to the school attack.
Well, this is the point. I think the Russians, after that attack, and after, discussing it with Xi especially, I mean, they're in no mood anymore to play around. They know, Putin, and he got a lot of flack from Russia for this. Putin gave a lot of leeway to Trump. Oh, we have the spirit of Anchorage. It's going to, and really at the end of the day, they don't want to talk to this anymore. Kushner and Witkoff, I mean, please forget it. Trump doesn't know what he doesn't do. One thing from one day to the next, he's going to change. From 1 hour to the next, he changes his mind. The business of the attack on Putin when he was on the phone with Russia, I forget where he was, and then he held him. Trump said, "Wait for my call back," and then the Ukrainian sent a drone. So I think since that attack and since this school attack, the Russians are just going all out now, and we're going to see an escalation of the war by Russia. And whether it's it's a war, and as long as they are not attacking deliberately attacking civilian targets and attacking military targets and attacking command and control centers, well, that's fair in love and war. And we'll see what happens. I mean, look, Ukraine has fought well in the sense that they fought like hell. They hung on a lot longer than anybody thought they would. And because they've had a lot of help from the West in terms of weapons and in terms of intelligence and targeting and ISR. So, Russia also, everybody wants this to, well, no, I won't say that. Russia wants this to get to be over at this point. They've had enough of it. I think the Ukrainians would like to extend it, at least hoping someone will come in. Maybe a Democrat will be elected in the United States. They'll come back to the war, which is quite possible. I think the Ukrainians and the Europeans would like to keep this war going at least until 2028. And I think the Russians don't want that. I think they want to end it before that. And we're going to see much more militant, serious, comprehensive attacks from Russia to try and put an end to this war within the next year. Let's put it that way.
Well, when you say in 2028, the reason for that is because they're hoping that the new president of the United States of America, likely a Democrat, will be more open to supporting Ukraine again and becoming a lot more active in that. And so I guess that's what you mean by that, right?
Yes. I think that I think Zelensky and the Europeans may have that illusion or delusion, or maybe it's not an illusion. I think the Democratic president probably would be more pro-Ukraine than Trump has been.
Yeah. Now, another element that immediately after that we then had, as we spoke about earlier, which was the Russians said and told all foreigners to leave Ukraine. And they also said that if you're from Ukraine, refrain from being in governmental buildings, military buildings, and anything that houses intelligence services. Lavrov also went on a phone call with Rubio and literally told him the same thing.
Yes.
So what's your thoughts on that, and what do we expect as a result of that?
Well, again, it demonstrates, the statements by Putin and the Lavrov call to Rubio was very strong. And it demonstrates that, we are upping the ante here. We are not going to be intimidated and afraid, oh, of being provoked into something. We are provoked into something, and we're going to react to it. And whether you like it or not, whether anybody in the world likes it or not, we're going to do it. And I think they're confident that China is going to back them up anyway at this point. And I think, and that's the only important thing. China and India maybe, but India's furious at Trump. I mean, I think, it's, again, this is one of these things. What do they say about this? They are being told off. The Americans are being told off by the Russians and the Chinese. I think Xi told off Trump about Taiwan and Japan, and very strongly. And this is, the Russians and the Chinese typically, historically, have been calm. They want to keep things stable. They have a serious diplomatic heritage, and they know the diplomatic language and the diplomatic rituals, and they've kept to them up until this point. And now they're being, we are giving you one. I think, Putin gave a warning to Trump about if the Ukrainians attack our Victory Day parade, you're going to have trouble. And Trump told Ukraine not to do it. And then Ukraine attacked that school. So then you had, I think that was really, to a certain extent, that may have been Zelensky saying, okay, we didn't attack the Victory Day parade, but now we're doing something else. You see, we're still going to attack them. So the Russians are saying at this point, we got to put an end to this. And we're going to see over the past 6 months, Russia acting very, very strongly and reacting to provocations in a way that doesn't withhold, because they're afraid of what we'll think of them.
So we have got a statement from the Romanian defense minister. Let me read that to you and to the audience. And he says the following. That's quite long, actually. So he says the following, which is, the Russian defense minister says the drone that hit the apartment building in Galati came from Russia. Let me get the exact statement. 1 second, sorry. It's a bit. Here we go. So it says, during the night of May the 28th to May the 29th, the Russian Federation resumed drone. Doing a bad job here. The Russian Federation resumed drone attacks on civilian and infrastructure targets in Ukraine in the vicinity of the river border with Romania. One of these drones entered Romanian airspace, being tracked by radar to the southern area of the city of Galati, and crashed onto a roof of a block of flats, the impact being followed by a fire. Specialized teams from the IGCSU and other structures from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Romanian Intelligence Service, and the Romanian police are operating on site. MAPN radars detected drones flying near Romanian airspace. 2 F-16 aircraft in the Air Police Combat Service took off at 1:19 from the 86th Air Base in Fetesi, supported by an IAR-330 Soca helicopter of the Romanian Air Force. The aircraft's pilot had authorization to engage targets throughout the alert. The National Military Command Center informed the General Inspector that for emergency situations about the need to institute measures to alert the population. In the context, RO alert messages were sent for Talicia, Galati, and Brela counties. The situation is dynamic, and we will return with information, official data, as they become available. It seems to suggest that this was an accident. Right?
Yeah. I think so. That there was a military base that they were aiming at. So that's what I'm going to guess is, the most likely explanation for it. But let's see what the Russians have to say. If it was an accident, I think Russians will hit it. It could have been an accident. It's in the southwest corner of Ukraine. The Russians have been doing a lot of attacking in western Ukraine. So, been an accident.
It could be.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, that's, again, no, I don't think anything is going to come of this. It's going to be like the Poland thing. I don't think anything's going to come of this. I think, nobody's invoking Article 5. The Americans aren't going to respond to an Article 5 invocation anyway. And again, people Article 5 means you have to join the attack. No, you don't. Article 5 means you got to consider responding. There's no automatic war for America by Article 5. So that's, and the situation in the country, the United States, is such now. We're not going to war with this. The United States isn't going to get re-involved in a strong way over this incident. It's not going to happen. They have other problems they got to deal with, and Trump does not want to get involved with because of this. The danger when the United States is getting back involved is going to be if there's an offense on Kiev, there's a collapse of the Donbass front and the Zaporozhye front, where we'll see what you mentioned about the war to the diplomats in Kiev. They leave Kiev. That's a big psychological Western to leave Kiev. They won't do that unless there's a real danger. And the Americans are not in danger of becoming involved again in a strong way until and unless Ukraine near collapse, which will happen at some point.
Yeah. Jim, your internet's gone out again, unfortunately. It's I don't know what the issue is. It might be just the weather or something, or it might be your internet's a bit low.
I'm getting signal. The returning to me is fine. I'm seeing that. Maybe we should have gone to StreamYard.
Yeah. If you're able to set it one last time, and we can just.
I will do it. Yeah, I will set it one last time. Yeah, this is really crazy.
So just to give you guys some more news, there is from that, it does seem to suggest that this was a accidental attack. It seems like these drones were fired towards Ukraine and one slipped through. It doesn't look good for the Romanians. They said they used 2 F-15 fighter jets. They were unable to stop the drone. And so even though they were aware of this one lone drone entering the airspace, they were unable to stop it. It doesn't sound too good or look too good when it pertains to Romanian defense. We're just waiting for Jim to come back on. Yeah, brilliant. He's back. Jim, thanks so much for coming back. So last question to you. Where do you foresee this war going now in the next, let's say, a week or so?
A week or so?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that anything serious is going to happen as a result of this drone strike or this drone, blowing up or hitting an apartment building. I think the next couple of weeks, the Russians are just going to continue advancing in Donbass and in the Zaporozhye fronts, and they're continuing to advance in the northern fronts. And Zelensky is very worried about that. They're going to approach the city of Sumy, and they're doing well in the Kharkiv Oblast, and the Russians are just going to continue relentlessly advancing. So there's not going to be a big arrow advance, I don't think, in the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to see relentless advances that just keep coming and get closer and closer to the cities of Zaporozhye and the Slavyansk conglomeration and Sumy. And every inch that they go that they approach those things is going to be more and more frightening for Zelensky and co. And the Europeans and I think we will see in the next few weeks, the Europeans and the Ukrainians trying to figure out some way to get the United States back involved. And Europe's talking a big game. They're going to go to war with Russia in 2030. They're not going to war with anybody in 2030. They won't be ready for anything. So, the fact is Russia has the advantage here, and they have a kind of insurmountable advantage in military industrial output, and they've now learned. Nobody knew what was going to happen here. They didn't know. And they have now fought for 4 years. And they have a good, seasoned army, experienced army. And they have a well-equipped army. And they've adapted their technology. The drones, now they're doing drone swarms. They have new missiles. They have the Orezhnik. It's going to get worse and worse for Ukrainians. I don't think anything dramatic is going to happen in the next couple of weeks, but something dramatic will happen, I think, over the next 6 months.
That makes sense. Jim, thanks for joining us. We definitely want to get you back on with the internet being a bit better. Yeah. Where can people
next time we'll get on before and check it out and spend a little time, make sure
Yeah, where can people find you and find your work?
Please, I have a Substack, Jim Kavanagh's The Polemicist Substack. I use the handle The Polemicist online. And on X, Twitter, it's at The Polemicist _. So please follow me on Twitter at The Polemicist _ and follow or subscribe, free or paid, to my Substack. Everything's available. Jim Kavanagh's Substack. Buy me a coffee.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, guys. Everyone should follow his Substack. Thank you so much, Jim, for joining us. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. That was Jim. Great knowledge, great information. It's unfortunate the internet was a bit sporadic, but he's a very knowledgeable person, really understands the issue really well. So hopefully we'll get him back on again, and hopefully his internet's a lot better and we'll be able to really get into the details, because there was a lot more questions I had, but it was the internet wasn't great. Guys, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to us. Have your notifications on. Where do you think this war is going to go? Do you think it escalates? How big is the attack on Kiev going to be? The Lavrov said the attack is coming, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the comment and have your notifications on. Tomorrow, we've got a huge lineup of people. Let me let you know who we've got. We've got Scott Ritter. We've got Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. We've got Leith Maroof. We've got Jason Zahiris. And we've got Dan Collins. We've got a great lineup, so make sure you have your notifications on. You've seen it. We're the place on YouTube for breaking news. Whenever the breaking news are on, we've got a show, and you're able to get it in real time. The only place to be is our show. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and have your notifications on. I've put a link in the comments of Larry Johnson. He also spoke about the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and he believes that Russia's going to attack Kiev in 4 days. Check that out. It's linked. It's pinned. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Scott Ritter, 10 a.m. Eastern. I appreciate you guys joining in.